This weekend, of course, is the 10th anniversary of 9/11, and media coverage is kicking into high gear. Now, even if you do your best to shield your child from the disturbing images of that day, chances are your child will catch a glimpse of the news footage. So how do you talk to your kids about what they may see or hear? Well, Dawn Cheshire with the University of New Mexico's Children's Psychiatric Hospital has some tips to help parents reassure their children when they're exposed to the frightening news reports. Good morning, Dawn.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
And you know, we are essentially reliving 9/11. We're doing it today. We'll be doing it all weekend. And that's difficult enough as an adult. And you and I both know that. But what about our kids? What do we do when, you know, they're going to react to what they see? So how do we deal with that?
Well, I think it's important to remember that our children are going to have the very same feelings that many adults have. They're going to be fearful, they're going to be anxious, and we just need to be paying really close attention to them and being around to comfort them, answer questions for them, talk to them about what their concerns are. You might see some of our kids being more fearful, maybe not wanting to be left alone, afraid to go to school, afraid to go to bed at night, afraid of the dark.
Nightmares.
Nightmares, absolutely. Maybe some regressive behaviors that you would see with a child with PTSD, maybe some bedwetting, thumb sucking, really depending upon the age.
Okay, well, you know, speaking of the age, what about the children who weren't born yet when 9/11 actually happened, and they're seeing these very graphic images for the very first time, you know, at 8, 9, 10 years old?
Correct.
What should parents do to address 9/11 for these kids?
Well, I think it's really important to remember that even though the children who weren't born yet, today they've seen lots of media coverage of the combat zones in Iraq and Afghanistan.
True.
So it's not like they're unaware of what happened, and I think this is an opportunity for the families to kind of tie those events together and answer questions for them. And again, you know, remind them that they're going to keep them safe, that they're in a safe environment, and that they're going to take care of them.
Kind of to give them history lessons with a little sensitivity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I would imagine, because some of these images you and I both know are very graphic, how can parents limit the access that the kids have to watching this news coverage?
That's really easy. Turn off the TV.
Well,
put them in the car.
that's
It's the
true.
weekend. Take them to the zoo. Take them to the state fair. Absolutely. Take them to Cliffs if you don't want to deal with the crowds at the state fair. But really kind of do things as a family and distract them. Use your just distract them.
That's a great idea, because, you know, I mean, kids, when they want to watch TV, it's easier said than done to just turn it off. But I mean, I think to provide distractions and activities as a family, that is great.
Have a plan.
Now, how can parents actually emphasize that the child will be protected if something scary happens? I mean, we're hearing that there are some alerts right now of terror threats in New York and in Washington, D.C. So how do we eliminate that fear?
Well, I don't know that we can 100% eliminate it. I think what we can do is don't disrupt their routine.
Okay.
You know, stay safe as a family, and really answer their questions. You know, a lot of kids are more resilient than we think they are, just like their families are. So if you have a child that's basically an anxious kid, then you're going to want to be paying closer attention, and again, limiting their access to that and answering their questions very succinctly, not to go into a lot of detail, but just really short, brief answers, and assure them and hug them and take care of them, and if they need to be close to you, keep them close.
Well, and some kids get to a certain age where I think they're very protective of their feelings, and they want to seem like they're not afraid. They're a big kid now.
Right.
How do parents encourage them to talk about their feelings and share?
You know, when you're dealing with adolescents, that's like a whole nother world.
Exactly.
So they're a lot of them are going to be shut down anyway, and they would be regardless of what's going on.
Right.
Just to, you know, reassure them and say, I'm here. If you need to talk about it, I'm happy to talk to you about it. Answer questions that they have. But those are tough nuts to crack.
Right.
They can be very shut down, and they want to be all grown up, and they don't want anyone to think that they might have a crack in the armor. So it's really just paying attention. If you have a positive relationship with your kids, you pretty much know what they're feeling. You can feel it.
And just encourage them to share. And
Absolutely.
just say, hey, it's okay, I feel the same way you do.
Sure.
And speaking of that, how can parents manage their own feelings? Because, I mean, all of us have so much emotion. I mean, we just heard it all throughout the show today, listening to stories and hearing these personal accounts of things that went on in each person's lives that day. So how do we manage our feelings so that we can shield our kids from feeling pain for us?
Well, I think it's really important it's okay to tell your kids that, yeah, mommy's sad too, and this this was bad. But I think if it's really something you're really struggling with, it is not appropriate to share that with your children. That's when you should seek another adult, maybe your spouse, a therapist if you need to, and then remember that I think the parents of military families are the ones who are going to be really struggling the most, because even though they weren't directly impacted by that specific event, their children then join the military, they've been deployed, they've been in combat, they've come back maybe after having seen some pretty horrific things, and so parents too, we feel what our children felt. I mean, we feel badly for them that they had those experiences. So it's a lot.
It is. Do you have any last words of advice as we go into this weekend, and again we continue to see all the media coverage? What would be your message to people out there to just be able to cope with their feelings in general?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that it's okay to have those feelings. It's also important to recognize that we all deal with stress in different ways. We all deal with grief in different ways. To honor one another. Some of us are really in our heads, and others of us, you know, we come straight from the heart. And to not personalize it if somebody doesn't want to talk about it, just to take really good care of yourself and take care of one another, take care of the people that you care about.
Great message. Dawn, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here and sharing your advice with us.
Thank you.
I know a lot of people can use it.
I appreciate it.
And we'll be back after the break.